So Trump Town Hall happened with Fox right off the bat. It was Brett Baer and
Martha McCallum.
Yeah, and I thought it was great. And by the way, I have to tell you, I watched the whole thing, and he seemed more presidential than I've ever seen him. I think he was very calm, collected, gave his answers, likable. The delegates that like, I'm for him or I'm for DeSantis, I'm in the middle. Well, I hope I win your vote. It came across as a very much of a...
He looked cool and relaxed.
He looked cool and relaxed.
And for me to say that, you know it's true.
What'd you think about it? Go for it.
Dude, I got to tell you, Trump's growing on me. You know, you
heard it here first.
Well, I think I'm a good indicator of where the country is. Let me unpack that.
Do it.
4 years ago, if you asked me what I thought about Trump, I'd say, no freaking way, this guy. But every election is the lesser of two evils. We've been saying that for the last decade. Well, that. At this point in Trump's career, I think he genuinely is like, look, I came into office. I'm going to drain the swamp. I'm going to build the wall. I'm going to lock her up. He made all these promises. And he realized that some of those promises actually weren't going to get done. But he also realized that the swamp is real, that the deep state is real, that the mainstream media agenda to silence him is real. And I don't think he really, really knew what he was up against in 2016, and I think in 2020, with the help of the Wuhan flu, he had the double-edged sword with Wuhan and mainstream media coming up against him. January 6th, we can put aside. But I think now, when he looks at, you talk about legacy and where he's at, he's like, look, I tried to do a job. You guys screwed me over. I want the job back. Do I have a little vendetta? Do I have a little vengeance? Sure, we'll put that aside. I'll be a dictator on day one. I'll shut down the border. I'll drill, baby, drill. But I think at this point, genuinely, he knows how Washington works. He knows what the swamp is. He'll hire, hopefully, the right people that won't try to basically undermine him around every single turn, leak all his stories. So I think genuinely this time around, believe it or not, I think it'll be a better Trump administration than the first time, just because he knows the swamp better than ever.
I couldn't agree more. And just watching it, one of the main things he said was peace through strength. I know you've said it before, but he's like, this has been just a lot of chaos. I know you said, Pat, this year is going to be the year of chaos. I actually have something to say about that later. But he also says he knows who his VP is. He obviously didn't want to say.
He did say he knows his VP already.
He goes, I know 100%.
He said Chris Christie, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that was the funniest part. That was the #1 viewed clip on Fox News, by the way.
Hilarious. And then they asked him, Brett Baer was like, well, both of them were like, can you tell? And he's like, well, maybe if you had me on in another show. So, I mean, he's being funny. But he said when he gets in, it's going to be, he's going to lead the largest deportation effort in the history of the country. And guess what? That's going to be a lot of work, because he also said that by the time this 4 years is done, the numbers that we're seeing, Patrick, are completely off. He said by the time Biden is done, guys, are you ready for this? 18 million illegals are going to be in this country, and as we know that they could apparently vote. He also said he doesn't have time for retribution. That's one of the best things that he said, is he doesn't have time for this. I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you. We are failing. The ship is sinking. He's going to have to come in and save it. I just hope to God that they let him do it, because the year of chaos, who knows what's coming down the pipe?
That's right. He said the greatest retribution is massive success. That's how he put it, which is, the famous quote, the greatest revenge of all time. And by the way, I kind of like when he said that. I love the fact that, look, we're going to win so much. That's our retribution to all the haters out there, Tom.
Yeah, I think what you're seeing here is a highly focused Donald Trump as a result of all these assaults on him. These assaults take a toll on any man, no matter how strong you are. And what I think I'm seeing here is a focused, genuine Trump that looks presidential. And I'm saying to myself, why do I think he's looking better? Why does he think he's looking like a leader? Because I think he's focused. I think he's got an underlying purpose, and I think he understands that they'll stop at nothing trying to do it. So I think what you saw there was basically, congratulations, guys. You've armed the missile, and it is now, it's on the launch pad, and he's got a lot of focus, and he's gaining momentum. He's less bombastic and more measured in what he says, but he hasn't gone Pat McAfee on this, Pat. He's not listening to a bunch of advisors and gone Pat McAfee at all. What he's done, you are seeing measured versus bombastic. You are seeing leadership preparing. You are seeing realization of how the enemy goes after him. And I think you put all that together last night, and I believe there are Democratic strategists out there, such as a prior president of these United States, that sees this, and they're not going to say it publicly, but it scares the hell out of them, which is why after Obama was trying to coach Biden, Biden's team wasn't reacting to it, that Obama's been leaking all these things. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, Obama's leaking this. He's leaking all these conversations with Biden because he's trying to get him and his team to do it that way, because he came behind closed doors and tried to talk to him, and they said, no, we're going to keep the strategy group over here. We're going to keep these things 100 miles apart. And guess what? I think they're scared to death of what they saw on that stage last night.
And Tom, I think you brought up the right word that I think would be very useful for him, and that word is measured. I remember listening to a presidential historian where they did, so what is it called when you do lay out like a word map? You've done that when we did what's that called? Like a word.
It's a word map, yeah.
Word map, sure.
And some of the words are bigger.
Yeah, some of the words, and they said like, what's the most important quality for a president? This is the presidential historian. He said measured. You're dealing with so much stuff. You got so much going on, and it's essentially what you talk about in Junior Ezemies Wisely. It's stoicism. When you use emotions, stoic emotion doesn't mean you're not emotional. It just doesn't mean you get triggered or you're thin-skinned. We all know that Trump, if he's hit, someone hits him, he hits back 10 times harder. Don't forget the backdrop of this. Whether you think he cared or not, his wife's mother just died. They're the exact same age. She just died. He's somber. He's posted on his Instagram. He's been married to Melania for 20 years now? Like, it ain't just a stunt. It ain't a PR thing. We actually took a bet whether they would stay together after the presidency ended in 2020. They're still together. His mom dies. He's on a debate stage. He looked measured. He looked cool. He looked calm. He looked collected. How many times can you say that about Trump? Those words in one sentence. So I think there's the picture right there. She looks like an older Melania. It's crazy.
Beautiful.
It's funny, but I think and then nuance. I think he gave a very nuanced, appropriate response to the culture wars in this country, certainly around abortion. He understands that is a major, major topic that women, listen, 100,000 votes one way or another will determine this election, whether it's in Detroit, whether it's in Madison, whether it's in Philly, whether it's in Vegas, wherever it is, 100,000 votes will move. And if you can convince 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 women to say, you know what? I actually like that response on abortion. He said it's such a polarizing issue. If we can kind of come together, as he called out DeSantis a little bit on this, he basically said it wouldn't be, without Roe versus Wade being overturned with the Supreme Court, because of me, the judges that I picked, 6-3 basically monopoly right now.
That's right.
We wouldn't even be having this conversation.
He said that to a lady that was supporting DeSantis.
Correct.
That her main issue was on abortion. That's right.
Correct. So to me, it comes down to policy and it comes down to personality. His personality seems a lot more cool and measured. Donald, our friend, utilize that. People appreciate when you don't have to be a, Don Rickles comedian up there. Yeah. But then also policy-wise, I think he gave a very nuanced approach to the border. I mean, very strength, and then abortion. So I think he did a great job last night. I would give him an A.
And I think, just to add to that in less than 10 seconds, over the last 3 months, we're seeing voting blocks trickle back to Trump, and we're seeing him gain little tiny bits of voting blocks that you didn't expect to be coming back. And that's happening in the backdrop, and that also scares the hell out of me.
But don't forget, guys, we're a year out. The Trump that we all know and a lot of people out there love is going to come because the shots are going to start being fired, and guess what? He's going to fire back. And don't get it twisted. When this is all nice and he's being presidential, and when he gets in, guess what? Not retribution. He is not going to F around, because now he's jumping right back into that same swamp, and now his eyes are going to be open because, and I get into these arguments all the time. Well, Vinny, Christopher Wray, he appointed Christopher Wray. Why? I go, bro. He doesn't know anybody in that whole realm. When somebody like Barr or somebody goes, hey, I recommend Pompeo, Mike Pompeo, you know what? You should get this guy. He has to hire people. He's not in Washington. And he learned his lesson, and now I think this next year, you're going to see the gloves start coming off as we get later.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.